It's in. Another flag comes out. The pass. That is picked off. Dimitri Goodson back the other way.
Welcome today to another podcast of Beyond the Sport. Today I am bringing to you Dimitri Goodson, also known to his family and friends as Meech. And we're going to take you on his journey from childhood to current, what he's doing, his walk with faith, and all the athletics he's been involved in. This is an amazing opportunity for me. You're a man who walks with faith.
Yes,
You did high school sports.
yes, ma'am.
You did college sports, and you were a professional athlete.
Ma'am.
So that is a first for me. I get to, actually really knowing a professional athlete too.
That's
So amazing. But I want to start from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
First off, Meech. Everybody calls you Meech.
Yeah.
So where did this come from?
Well, I was named after my godfather, one of my dad's best friends in college. So my
Okay.
dad went to Pitt, and so his nickname was Meech. So it just naturally
Kind of
happened.
came
It
to
kinda
you.
came to me. And growing up, I knew it was gonna stick after like third, fourth grade when like all my teachers called me Meech still. It's like, man, this is,
Just everybody.
everybody. So then people love that name though. So it just
It's unique.
it just kind of fit me. you know.
And because I hear all the kids, I see all the kids at the games, and when they see you, especially the really little kids,
Yeah.
they just Meech, Meech,
Yeah.
Meech,
Yeah.
Meech, and they love you, and I
Yes,
think they
ma'am.
love saying that.
Oh yeah, it's
So-
kind of one of those names that when you hear it, you won't forget it at all.
Yeah, I actually had to Google your first name, to
Yeah.
be honest. I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie. I mean,
only-
I know your last name, I know Meech, but I was like, what is this
I only
first
hear
name?
my first name when my mom calls me or I mess up at home and
I was just going to
my
say,
wife calls me.
and your wife,
Yeah, for
Oh.
sure. Yeah.
Dimitri Goodson.
Dimitri, yeah.
That's, you're in
power.
trouble.
Yes, for sure.
Oh,
For
wow.
sure.
Awesome. So let's start at the beginning. I know you grew up in Texas
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, in Houston, and started playing sports. What sports started in? Did you start?
First sport, my first sport was baseball, actually. So I was too young to play football at the time. My oldest brother, Mike, he played football. And I always went to his practices, but just wasn't able to play because I was so young. So baseball was my first love. Growing up in Jersey, and so Derek Jeter is one of my favorite players.
One of your heroes, yeah.
Definitely. So baseball is an awesome sport. It was kind of hard at first because growing up in Jersey, it's cold, and playing baseball when it's cold is never fun. But then third grade, I moved to Texas, which it was a lot hotter, so it made it a lot better for me.
A lot better. You're not swinging a bat in the cold and then it's
Yes.
reverberating up your arms
Yes.
because it's so cold it hurts.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So I think baseball taught me a lot of skills. Just hand-eye coordination.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of teaches you. It's a game of failure. So I didn't really like that part of it, but young, I was really good at baseball. I barely got out, but then I stopped playing baseball in 8th grade because that was a thresh point where like the ball starts to come very fast and they're throwing curves. One day I was up at bat and I thought the ball was going to hit me. I ducked and it was like strike. And I was like, you know what? This is too much for me.
You're done.
Yeah, I'm done with baseball.
And so then is that when you would transition to track for a little bit, or
Well,
did you go straight to football?
I always juggle sports, so it was baseball, and then whenever basketball season came around, it was basketball season, and then football. So
Okay.
those are my 3 sports I juggle.
So you're like a lot of athletes at the high school level these days that participate in multi-sport
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
years.
So,
So
I began traveling with basketball in 3rd grade around
Wow.
the country. Yeah. So we would go to all these tournaments around the country, Florida, California, just all over playing basketball at such a young age. And we kind of kept that group of guys, main core guys, all the way up till my junior year of high school, like that same team. And we were really
wow.
good. Yeah.
So you were able to really connect and feel each other's
Yes.
presence on the court. And
Yes, it was
clockwork.
Yes, and it was so cool to see each other grow, and with that growth, at first I wasn't the best person on my team, but I was super work ethic though. I was always one of those guys where I I play some video games. You know, I'm a kid, but for the most part, I'm outside playing basketball. Like morning, noon, night.
You're that age gap or that little spot, that sweet spot that's right between us who spent all the time outside and the ones that came a little later that all the time inside.
Exactly.
So you were able to do a little of both, make a balance.
Yes, exactly. So I think cell phones. I think my first cell phone, I was like in 8th grade. So
I can't even fathom. I didn't even have cell phones when I was in 8th grade.
But it wasn't like a good one. It was just like, I can only call a certain amount of people and stuff like that.
You're sending a text and you're typing each number to get the right letter.
Yes. And then I had like where you had to pay for like the minutes or whatever. I know, that's crazy.
I remember that. Yeah.
Back in the good
the dark ages.
Yes, the dark ages.
Yeah.
For sure.
Some kids can't even fathom that. I mean,
not at all. It's a completely different world now. But
it is.
But then we would always go back to football season, and I would kind of go through that process.
Which, of course, is a big sport in Texas.
Huge sport.
So, I mean, it's the most important sport.
It is.
Nothing tops it, no matter, I mean, baseball and basketball are close, but...
So my brother Mike, he was a big-time prospect coming out of high school. He was like the number 2 running back in Texas, so football was very prominent in my family. And but growing up, I was always the best, like, overall athlete, but even in football, I was a better running back. You hear that, Mike?
We'll make sure you see the video.
Yeah, for sure. But football's always came natural to me, though. It's one of those things where naturally aggressive, and I was shy up until the point where we'll talk about it later with like God and how everything worked with that. But I used to be shy because I used to stutter a lot. Okay. Growing up as a child. So,
and that's hard because there's a lot of bullying that goes on with that.
Not really bullying, but kind of
made fun of,
trapped in your body sometimes, where you want to say something, but you'll feel it coming, and then it's like I can't say it.
Can't say it because you don't want to stutter, and
then like reading out loud in school, I'd be like, God, I would like count how many kids is up. Like, okay, let me make sure that I don't fumble none of these words right here.
You count this is the paragraph I have to read. I think everybody does that though when it's you're gonna have to read, because I remember doing that.
For sure. But
crazy.
Yeah, so with the stuttering thing, I'm sorry to bounce around, but
no, hey, it's your show.
When I got when the Packers called me to be a scout, right? I've always been very the type of person that just works at everything. So I was like, one day I'm about to fix this stutter. Like, so I looked up a whole bunch of stuff, went on YouTube and concentrated on my breathing and like basically everything that like a therapist would probably done. I did all that myself.
For free.
Yeah, for free. So the scouting job though made me get outside my comfort zone, because my fear was talking in front of people. Like, that was one of my worst fears. Like, if I had to do that, I'd fake like I passed out or something. But being a scout allowed me to overcome that and face my fears. And I read a passage in the Bible that Moses used to stutter.
Yes.
And when I read that, right before I went up to Green Bay to get my scouting job, I read that passage. And when I read that, it just like a calmness came over me. And I went in for like to get the job. They had like probably 5 other guys there, and they gave us tape to watch film on a couple of guys, and we had to give our little briefing at the end of what type of player it was, and kind of like give like a whole little scouting and
just a summary.
Yeah, summary of who the player was. But it was in front of the GM, like all the top guys are in there, and you go in there in that big room, you sit down in that chair.
It's a lot different than being a player.
100%. But I say this, like I had them laughing. I was just myself, and God was in the room with me, and literally when I walked out, I knew I had the job because of that. And from that point on, I had to talk a lot, and by talking a lot, it just gave me practice, right? Practice. So now that's something that I had to overcome, and made me such a stronger person from that. So,
yeah. My son and I follow a YouTube channel, and their motto is seek discomfort. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I love it, because think of all the things you miss out if you don't step outside your comfort zone, that job. And I can imagine what an amazing job that is, meeting people and watching all the different talent and stuff. So
and when you face your fears, it gives you a sense of confidence, and it just makes you I say limitless, because my thing is people always want to shy away from stuff they're not good at, but I'm like, go at it. It's just like in sports. Like if you don't have a left hand, go work on your left hand. Don't not use it, because then it's going to get worse.
Exactly.
So just go and work on the things that
strengthen that part. And we do that in running. What's a weakness? Well, that's the part you need to work on.
Yeah,
so because that'll build this part that you're already strong in. So we definitely look at it that way. So that was really kind of a turning point for you. So you're in high school, you're playing multi-sports, you get not drafted, but signed to play at Gonzaga for basketball of all things. So of all sports, you go and you play basketball. And I've seen the most famous highlight clip there is to see of the Gonzaga basketball game. So the one where you saved the team, got them into the playoffs. So talk to us about this thing. So you get signed. You're an amazing football player, and you signed to play basketball.
So I was highly rated as a corner, but I actually stopped playing football my sophomore year of high school just to concentrate on basketball. And probably one of the best decisions, because just juggling two sports, and one day I was just like, I really want to be the best basketball player I can be. So just honing in on my craft and putting in all the extra work, I ended up being the number 1 point guard coming out of Texas. And went to Gonzaga, and that was awesome. My freshman year, had a great freshman year, balled out, and went to the Sweet 16 was that shot I made in that. And then sophomore year, we were winning, but I got kind of homesick a little bit. And the same as my junior year, we won the conference, but just a little homesick going all the way up to.
It's far from here.
Yeah, it's very far, and it's cold and
wet, rainy,
and just not having family around kind of got to me. But my dad always told me that I could always go back and play football, and I've always had a football mentality. Just growing up, I've always been a very tough kid. My mom and dad divorced when I was little, so growing up with my dad, he was a very man's man to say,
different generation too.
Way different generations, old school. So there was a lot of yes sir, yes ma'am. If I ever said what he would get you. So, but I've learned so much from that, and that toughness that he gave me as a young boy definitely carried to my sports.
Carried on into sports and into adulthood. Definitely. So you're playing Gonzaga, you're kind of homesick for home. So you decide to come back this way, and you transition sports.
Yes. So what happened, I called my high school coach, and first I prayed on it, right? I prayed because I don't make
just make rash decisions.
Rash things like that.
Let alone life decisions.
Yes. And for me, life is about the decisions you make. So one false move can cause you a whole lot of setbacks. So
it's this way or this way, and so they all branch off in the end.
Yes. So I prayed for about 3 months before I even told anybody what I was going to do.
Oh wow!
And one day I woke up and God made it clear. He said, "Just do it." So I went, talked to Coach Few, went in his office. We sat down, and I was like, "Coach, I'm looking to go play some ball somewhere else, football." And when I told him that, you just seen his face. He was like, "What? You want to do what?"
You haven't played football since your sophomore year.
In high school. Yeah. So.
And now you're sophomore, finishing up your sophomore year in college.
Yes. So.
Wow, big gap.
Huge gap. So, but I've always been super confident in what God gave me and blessed me with, and but when I told him that, he said, "Meech, do you know how many kids your size have been playing football since you stopped?" I said, "Yeah, but you never seen me play football." And that was the last thing I ever said to him before I left. So somehow all the schools got my name out there, and they started calling me out of nowhere, right? So
That's what you want.
That's God, right? So so I thought I would have to go knock on doors and, hey, I want to just meet you.
Like audition in a way, be a walk on.
So they all start calling me, and I had some big schools. I had Bama, who else? Oregon, a couple other big schools, but I didn't want to go anywhere too big because I knew I only had 2 years to play, and I knew it was like that first year was going to take time for me to kind of
somewhere big.
Yeah, but
yeah, Bama big.
Yeah, Baylor was it was very up and coming, and I wanted to go somewhere where they needed me.
Yeah,
you know. So,
where you could be useful and put your skills to use.
Yes, because
they didn't have 10 of you already.
That's my thing. I don't like playing on stacked teams and going to stacked places. I want to play against those people. So I went and talked to Coach Browse and set up a meeting in his office, and he looked me in my eyes and was like, "Meech, I'm gonna trust you, right?" And so from that point on, I was
no pressure,
no pressure at all. So. After talking to him, though, I knew Baylor was a spot. He was so humble and such a good man in person. So I think we had a game the next week. And the following week, I was back on kick return as a starter in kick return.
Wow. Right? Just boom, there you are.
Just like that.
Big part of that, talent and work ethic and being in shape and trusting God.
For sure. But this is when God starts to really work his hand in my life is so everything's kind of going pretty smooth up until that point. And so the third game of that season, the football season, I break my ankle. So I have to get surgery and I'm out for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the first one. I haven't broken anything playing sport all the way up to that point. So I'm like, dang, all right. Well, let me work hard this summer, come back. At the time, I'm like, dang, so that's 1 year. So now my next year, right? So I come back and I'm getting better at cornerback. And third game of the season again, special teams. I go down, we're playing West Virginia. I run down on the field. I make a great tackle, and I break my forearm because I hit the kid's shin. Oh. Shin to forearm on the tackle, and I could feel it just shatter. And I remember standing up and holding it, and I could feel the bones kind of like going back in place when I grabbed it, and I walked off on the side, and they kind of carted me off. And I remember looking up at the sky and asking God why, at like this point I'm lost. I have no idea. Like,
you're like, you brought me here.
What's gonna happen exactly? So I'm just like,
now what?
Yeah. So I'm just like, Lord, why? And like I was just so confused and kind of lost at that moment. And I cried a little bit that night just because I didn't know what was going to happen. But I ended up getting that year back.
So they kind of almost counted it like a red shirt year?
Yeah. So I ended up getting that year back after I lost it. Yeah, so I ended up getting that year back. So watch how God works. So up until that point, I was doing decent at corner. But that last year, that summer, I knew I had to like go. So bust my butt, man. This is the hardest training I've ever done. Every day, all day. All I'm doing is backpedaling, working on my craft. And that summer, in summer workouts, I'm killing it though. Like all the top wide receivers we had, I'm like clamping them up in practice. Like coach is saying he doesn't want all the top people to go with any other corner but me because I was like balling. Like I was picking them off, pass breakups here and there. So I finally became myself out there, and that was when I felt like myself, like the guy that I wanted to be.
You knew could be, yes. And you were hoping to be. So it took me getting hurt in that time to heal and get better, just overall. But at the time, I'm like, dang. But now I look back at it, it was just God giving me more time to get better. Because if you hadn't, that would have been your last year, maybe it would have been I won't say mediocre is the word, but not as good as you could be.
No, exactly. So that last year, we start off, we're highly ranked. I'm number one corner. We're beating everybody by 20. Oklahoma, we beat by 30. Texas, we beat by 20. We blew everybody out. The only game we lost was Oklahoma State that year.
Okay.
So we ended up winning the Big 12 that year.
Sweet. So that's always sweet.
That was huge, right? So
yeah.
So that's kind of how my life has been, just with my faith in God. I always pray before games, and for me, it's not about too much of me anymore, especially, but it's about how can I use my talents for God. And when you're not playing for yourself and you play for God, man, he'll just open up doors for you like no other. So I ended up getting drafted.
But before you get to that, getting drafted, you just said something that's really amazing. You know, when you're playing for God, he'll open up doors. But you didn't do playing for God. You didn't go, I'm making a presumption for you, but you didn't go I'm playing for God because he's going to open doors. I mean, because you had to go through a rough patch before those doors opened. So you'd have to learn to rely on him and see what his plan was. And I guess I'm kind of speaking for you in the assumption that that's what you're saying, thinking, or happened. Ma'am.
And it's
and he did open doors for you.
100%. And that goes from being like a little boy and going through situations in middle school where you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. And there it goes.
There's a door.
There goes God right there. So just like learning to trust him.
We're gonna come back to all that faith early on here in a minute.
I got you. So
I wanted to get some of this out because I want people to know who you are.
For sure.
And then talk about how your faith worked through all of that from youth through the professional sports, because people don't realize, there's more than sports and there's more than being a professional athlete. But when you are, that's a God-given talent. And it's a blessing that it's a gift. It's a blessing. God didn't have to give it to you, allow you to do. And the people that I think, and I want to talk about, have God in their life, they view it differently than the people on their team or in the sport that don't.
Very true.
So, but before you got drafted, also, didn't you meet somebody at Baylor?
I met my wife.
Yes, who is also a Division I All-American softball player.
Yes, and Lindsay Hayes. Well, Lindsay Goodson now.
Yeah.
But, we met at Baylor, and that's
so another God thing.
That's
you got a wife because you chose, not because you chose there, but God led you there.
That's another thing. We always talk about that. It's like, what if I would have kept playing basketball, right? I would have never met her. I would have never had my kids. I would probably never be here sitting talking to you.
You got a little mini-me running around at home, too.
Oh, yeah. Yes, man.
He's a multi-sport one.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be... He's talented.
I know that. I bet the high school coach is already salivating. We'll have to ask Mathis. I'm going to try and get Mathis in here for an interview, and we'll have to ask him. Okay. So you salivating over this kid, just waiting for him to become a sophomore?
Yeah, he's a great athlete, but more so, I'm more proud of him for just the person he is. He knows God, and he just has a very sweet heart. So. Good boy. Good boy.
Okay, so now we'll move forward a little bit, because we had to complete the whole Baylor scene. I know what happened at Baylor. You met your wife. Yeah. And like I said, an athlete in her own right. Amazing athlete, too. Tommy, her dad, brags on her to me all the time, and it's wonderful to hear. And so now you're getting scouted by Green Bay, or just getting scouted?
I was, so I got drafted. Drafted, yeah.
Okay.
Drafted, and
nothing wrong with that.
Moved up to Green Bay, and I was going back and forth to Baylor because Lindsay was still at Baylor, so I would go down to her games, softball games, and man, she was so good. I miss watching her play. But up at Green Bay, my first year, everything's going good. Just learning how to be a corner, how to be a pro, just kind of taking it all in.
Different level.
Different level. The first meeting I go in, the very first day we get there, and it's a team meeting. I sit down, and lo and behold, Aaron Rodgers sit right next to me. So I'm like, so I'm like trying not to be like a fanboy.
But yes.
But at the same time, it's like one of those things where your dreams are in front of you, and it's like, man, this is really happening. Yeah, it's really happening. Like, this is my teammate now. It's so cool. So the first year was awesome, man. Just taking it all in, and then I had my son, and sophomore year, kind of the same thing. So we would go back and forth during the summertime from Brock to Green Bay.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here now, because of the off season, just coming here, just fell in love with Brock. So
it's a beautiful community.
It's awesome. It's an awesome place. But so then I'm doing good. A couple of years go by, and my fourth year in the NFL, I'm starting finally. I probably got like 6 games of starts under me. Everything's going good, right? And but it was the Redskins games, and I'm starting at corner, but it was they were punting the ball, so I was one of the gunners outside who was supposed to be blocking. So I'm blocking, and right before that play, one of the other gunners who wasn't fast as me, he told me to switch sides because his guy was faster than him. And he kept beating him down the field. So this goes to show that this was for me and not anybody else. So we switch sides, and the play happens, and Randall Cobb gets the punt. He's coming up my back, so I can't see the play coming. So I'm blocking, and a guy grabs Randall kind of by the hips, and Randall kind of like hip tosses him off of him. And when he did that, the guy goes flying. It's a big dude too. He's probably like 245, 250, like a linebacker. And he's in the air. And while he's in the air, I step, and his whole body just crushes my leg, and literally my ankle touched the top of my head while his body was on me.
I haven't watched that highlight. I'm not going to.
It was.
I knew you were injured, but
it was very graphic, and so I tore ACL, MCL, PCL, dislocated my kneecap, and maybe if it was a little bit worse, I may have been in jeopardy of losing my leg. It was
wow.
It was
that's serious.
It was a very serious injury.
Wow.
But I came back from that. Just a grueling rehab. Like that was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It's basically I had to teach myself how to walk again.
Well, then to get to the point where you can run and play football,
run and do
and
all
that's
that.
That's a lot of torsion on your knees where you just had fixed.
Yes, it's a lot. So, but now that I look at it from this perspective, it brought me so much closer to God because of that. Like the nights where I was, because I had nerve pain damage, and at first, the first month after surgery, I didn't sleep for like 4 weeks because of the nerve pain. So I would ask God, I'm like, Lord, like, I don't know what you got going for me right now, but come on, man, like I need you. Like show me, give me a sign. Like I need some lift up, because it was a very hard turning point for me at that time. But when I was able to start walking, it got better. And then I started, jogging, and then I went back up to Green Bay and got with the trainers there, and we got to start doing a lot more stuff and movement. And then I was able to run, but it was still like a limp at first. So it's like baby steps. But finally, after about 10 months, which is very fast for my injury to come back from.
I'm sitting over going, that seems so long, but the degree of your injury, that would be extremely fast.
That's super short though. Like people with ACLs just alone, that's like 11 months. And I came back in like 10 months.
Basically ripped your whole leg off.
Yeah. And I came back from that. So, but I came back too fast. And so I came all the way back to training camp. I was practicing again.
Yeah.
And I was just so happy to be out there, and just a whole new thankfulness of just able to just play again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just smelling the grass, I'm like, thank you, Lord, for giving me another opportunity to get out here. But every day it was like I had to give my soul just to finish practice. Because it would hurt so bad. Like at first it would be good, and then like
at the end of practice,
it gets so sore, and to where I like couldn't even lift my leg up. But I'm a fighter, and to say I'm a dog, I got that dog in me. So, but so preseason games where I'm doing good. I probably had my best preseason, but the business side of it and understanding it now.
Yeah,
I was probably 28 at the time, so I was a little bit older in the NFL game, and having a big injury like that, it's gonna be hard for me to make a team, even though I had my best preseason.
Yeah.
So at the end of the cuts, I ended up getting a phone call. And I know, I was just like, dang. So when I got the phone call, I kind of felt like it was coming. But when it did, it was kind of like
still kind of
yeah, and then it was like because I'm so close to everybody up there, and they all love me so much.
Well, that's hard. I mean, you're a team. You bonded as a team.
Yeah.
You know, you got friends. It's your friends.
Yeah.
It's your family. Your teams become family.
Yeah. So walking into the building was tough. And that was the first time I've ever been cut from anything in life. Anything, ever. Like, so it was very humbling experience that I'm happy I had to deal with, though.
Something more has come out of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, as always.
For sure. But
in the moment, it's very humbling. They cut me.
Yeah, I'll go whenever we go back and talk about the faith all the way. I'll tie it all back in.
Yeah.
It was a very, very hard time for me, and after that, I kind of knew I was done though. But then I got picked up by the Saints for like 4 weeks, so I made a little extra money. It was cool.
Get by for a little while longer.
Yeah, get by for a little while longer. But I like knew I was done though, because it was like, it wasn't fun anymore. It was like practice. I'm like, dang, like how I'm gonna get through this? All right.
It was torture more than fun.
Yeah.
Some people say it was fun. Now it's a job. You kind of didn't even get that job. Now it's a job. You just went to. It's just too much.
It's just too much now. It's too much. It's like I'm not thinking about anything else besides how I'm getting through practice after each rep. So when it gets like that, I'm like, I'm done. So I retired, and the way God works though, all right? So Green Bay, I've always been I'd say a good person, just type of guy that I'll talk to anybody. I don't judge people. I try not to judge people. And I kind of see everybody like that the same. I don't put people on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I'll talk to person on the side of the road, just like I'll talk to you, right?
Yeah. So I mean, then that's kind of what happened. I mean, the first time I met you was at the banquet for one of the sports teams, and just randomly sit next to each other at this table of photographers and videographers, and hey, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, and total strangers just talking.
Yeah. So, lost my train of thought.
I'm good at doing that to people, but that's okay. We were talking about, being a good person that you can talk to just anybody, and you just, I think that was leading into Green Bay.
Oh yeah. So, I was at home. It's probably 3 months later. It's in the off season, right? So I'm at home just trying to figure out what the heck I'm gonna do.
Next step.
Because I was still getting teams calling me for tryouts. I'm like, I'm not gonna try. Like,
wow. I mean, one, that's really cool that they're still calling you to try out, but two, you're just like, I mean, that's some real huge insight into where you want to be and not want to be.
Yes. So,
especially, you're married. I mean, you're not newly married anymore, but you've got one kid. You were pretty close to have a second one on the way. Yeah, because your daughter was there.
Yeah, and then we just got married, right? So then my house getting built. So it was a lot all at one time. And then having to deal with my head outside of not playing, right? And then it was just a lot going on. So I didn't want to go and have a whole workout and then not get picked up. So because I know once you get in that bubble, I know most people would have went and did it, but like for me, I'm the type, when I know in my heart that I'm done with something, I'm done. And I'm not wasting any more time with it. I'm moving on.
Moving to the next thing.
Move to the next thing. And that's very hard for people to do.
It is, but it seems like you're able to say, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it well, so I'm going to give it my all, which means I'm done.
Yeah. And I literally gave it my all. Every ounce of me that I had, I gave it all to. So there's no...
you left it all on the field.
I left it all out there. So
that's good.
So I'm sitting in the kitchen, and Lindsay's in there. I get a phone call, and it's a Green Bay number. So I answer it. I'm like, hello? And it's John Eric, one of the higher ups in Green Bay. And he's like, Meech, how you doing, man? I'm like, I'm good. He said, have you ever thought about being a scout? I said, no. He said, well, how about you come up next weekend and we're going to give you some players to look at. And if you get the job, you get the job. Right? So this ties back to my whole little thing about me being scared to talk in front of people. So I hang the phone up. I'm like, that's Green Bay. They want me to come up and be a scout. So I said, but I don't want to talk in front of people. Like, I don't like talking in front of people like that. So Lindsay's like, Meech, just go. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. So my little story I told earlier, that's what happened. And I went and got the job and I became a scout. And it's something I'm naturally good at. Like, and the reason why they asked me to be a scout was because they see how much film you watch on your iPads. And one day in meetings, coach pulled up everybody's iPad usage and all the names. And lo and behold, it shocked me too. I was number one
of all the players.
Out of everybody in that building. I watched the most film out of everyone.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you definitely have an eye on what's going on and who's doing what. Yeah. It's also really scary that they're tracking your iPad.
Yeah, for sure.
Their own little government.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, dang, y'all really watch that, huh? So that kind of tied into it, and just being a good person. I feel like when you're a good person, you're faith-based, and they not only do they want to keep people like that in the building,
it's a good representation.
Yes, for sure. So I became a scout, and I scouted for 3 years. Awesome job. So I would go to schools. I probably had 40 schools I was over. Had some big ones, some smaller ones. But I was on the road a lot, and going to the school, I would have to get the backgrounds of all the players, mom, dad, how tall they are, how much they weigh, how thick their thighs are, how thick their ankles are, head size, all measurements.
Like, wow.
So it's a lot of tedious work, but it's something I'm naturally good at, and just seeing talent.
Yeah.
So playing both sports at a very high level. And I was kind of a scout before I knew I was scouting, because I would look at the corners that are on the team, and I would X people off just by their body types. I said, your ankle's too thick. You ain't beating me out. Like I would literally do this in my mind.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'm saying? Not
so
even
you know what to look for exactly.
And it's just like watching film, right? When I watch film, I pick up what type of movements the guy has. Is he fluid? Is he stiff? Does he play high? So it all kind of tied in together. It's something that I was naturally good at, and that goes back to God. Like he always gives me what I need, even though I don't even know what I need. Like he always does that. Like it's something that I'm so gifted at naturally, and not even knowing that I want to be a scout, he gave it to me.
Here it is.
And there it is. And I was one of the best ones. And the GM trusted me a lot. My last year, we drafted 3 of my guys. And my 7th round pick, he came up to me, the GM, and we call it a war room. It's like a room during a draft. And it has all the guys on the board, and we're sitting there, and we needed like a couple more picks in the 7th round. So he comes up to me, he's like, Meech, who should we get? And I pointed at the board, and lo and behold, he drafted him right there. I said, I got some pull around here. So that was cool to see that. You know? So, and then all my guys are still on the team. But now I don't scout anymore. It's just too much time away from the family. And
as your kids are starting to get very active. I mean, obviously the new one, still very small, but your son's very active in multiple sports. What does your daughter do?
Gymnastics.
She's
playing softball this year too.
And softball. Okay. Yeah. So, you've got 2 active kids.
Yes.
So what are you doing now then?
So now I just train. I train probably 30 kids out in Brock, and train to just coach my kids, all their teams, softball, t-ball, flag football, and just kind of give my life to the kids now. Like
giving back.
Giving back, and that's the best way I know how is one, training is very to me it's kind of like playing, because of course I don't get to play, but I get to help these kids, and then I go to their games and see them get better and then see them win. So
and you're passing on your skill set and your knowledge that they can use to get farther or better in what they're doing. Do you train mostly football players then?
I train football, basketball, and
basketball.
Basketball, and just like speed. Overall, just making people better, quicker, faster, stronger.
That's what my daughter did. She runs track and is running D1 track at Tarleton. So pretty proud of her.
That's awesome.
We took her to a trainer outside of school too, who was an Olympic athlete. Awesome. So it was pretty cool. Yeah. And I have a friend whose son was a star pitcher for the Oregon team, the Ducks, and they won the World Series in baseball. And he's a left-handed pitcher, so that's a commodity. Oh, yeah. But then COVID happened, so he's been kind of lost. He's just been doing some minor leagues. I'm like, you need to be. I kept telling her, you need to tell him He wants to keep trying. I'm
So-
like, okay, but I'm like, you need to tell me he needs to do this.
Yeah.
But it may not be God's will for him. But I'm like, there's an opportunity
I was gonna
though.
say, it's like, for me, I started training. Like I do all this. Like I don't need money. So for me, this is my second calling. Like I all started off. Somebody asked me to train their kid, and lo and behold, I didn't know I would be a good trainer, right? But I just based off of everything I've been through and type of personality, I was like, let's do it. So I trained him, and he started killing it. And then lo and behold, it's parent after parent.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth kind of spread, and got multiple kids that have went off to college now that I trained, and just seeing kids get better is no other feeling like that. And I always tied into God. I always talk to him about God, and how when you put God first, everything else is going to come.
Fall into place where it should be, even if it's not what you want,
Yes.
but where it should be, and you got to be open.
Yes.
So let's transition into that. So when did you, or do you recall first knowing about your walk with faith? Like
So
you became saved and all
I
that.
grew up in a church. My grandma, she's from Jersey. And so we go to church probably 3 times a week. She was in the choir. So whenever she had choir practice, we're in the church. Halloween, we at the church. So always very faith-driven family growing up. But I've always had a sense of knowing who God was at a very young age. And I would pray every night. And it's weird because ever since I was a little boy, I kind of always had a feeling that God was with me. And I think that came from going to church, but also I feel like it came from him giving me
The Holy Spirit awareness.
yes, just the person I am. Like that's who God made me to be. So I've always had that special gift of knowing who God was, and that my talents aren't mine.
It's amazing what we learn, and to know that from a young age. I didn't know that at a young age, but I didn't really had talent. I had to work at what I achieved.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a great high school and an average college career, but what I got, I had to work really hard for. I didn't have the talent, but to recognize that the talent you had, because you were very talented, and to recognize that it wasn't yours, it came from
mine.
God. That's huge, even at a young age.
And at a young age, I was never like, I'm always very gifted. I was always one of the better athletes, but for me, I was always humble. I never talked about myself. You're not gonna catch me, boasting in people's face. Every now and then, like I might trash talk in the game, somebody trash talk me, but
Yeah.
I actually learned in high school and stuff that all that talk is just talk. And for me, I was like, I know God doesn't like this, right? So whenever somebody talk trash, I would be like, we'll see. And that's and to me, that's more scary than talking trash.
Yeah, because you're not responding. They're like, oh, who'd I just... They're confident enough to say, we'll see.
You know what I'm saying? So then you get on that court and we gonna see. All that talking ain't gonna do nothing. You're gonna have to see me on the court. So then after the game, I don't talk trash. But hey, good game, bro.
Yeah.
Next time, right? So just being humble and like just
Sets an example,
grateful,
too.
yes, it does big time, and it makes people love you and like you, and just to be a likable person, right? So my thing is nowadays all these kids they want to gritty and they think it's cool to talk trash, and because there's so many cameras out, right? So
Yeah.
so I
Show off for the cameras.
show off for the cameras.
I've gotten a good view of that in my last couple of years.
So, but you see, I think it was just the God in me, just understanding at such a young age that He was always there, and then Him showing me who He is too, like just with circumstances, right? So that faith has always been very deep, and like I said, I pray every night hard. I pray for everybody, and literally my game and everything changed. It was like my sophomore year in high school where like everything clicked. My faith my athletic ability, it all clicked, and I was just dominating people. And I used to get like stage like fright in big games up until that point because I put too much pressure on myself. And I started practicing this, and one day I like right for the game, I'm like, I'm just play for God. Like, who are you? Like, what are you scared of? And ever since then, that point, I played every game how I practiced. Just a sense of just none of these people matter. None of these people matter. You already are who you are. So like, just
that's not going to change.
Just go be you. Just go be you. And I started doing that and thanking God for my losses and my wins after every game. I always thank them.
Even in your losses, when you grow,
Yes.
there's still, Paul says to be joyous in all circumstances. And people are like, well, how can you be, you just lost.
Yeah.
You can still have joy in your heart because God's still showing you something.
Yes, for sure. So I had to learn that. And then once I learned that, like, losses aren't really losses. Like, when you can grasp that and get better from it, that's when you start to grow.
And that's what I want to see a lot of our youth today learn, because they're so wrapped up in the sport that they forget or don't know that God, some of them don't even know who Jesus is or the gospel, but that there's so much more than just the win.
Yes.
And I mean, wins are great, don't get me wrong.
Yes, for sure.
But like for me, I'm in a sport where there's 2,000 people lining up. I'm not going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to win. So how do I reconcile that? And I'm like, well, this is what God allows me to do.
Yeah.
I will do my best to, I have expectations of myself, but I'm not going to get there if God doesn't allow it. And I have to reconcile, okay, well, I had a really crummy swim.
Yeah.
What happened? Well, okay, God, what am I learning?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I still finished. Bonus, you let me finish still. You didn't let me drown in the lake.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and like for me, so back to the journey, like
yeah.
I was so going back to Gonzaga, right? So making that switch, like that took a lot of faith. And now I'm able to look back at all the things that happened. It's just like it's all God, but it took me to trust him and to be able to understand how to hear him, right?
Yes.
Most people like you like God don't talk to you. It's like
He does.
He does.
That's what the Holy Spirit is.
Yes. He talks to your spirit.
You have to listen.
You have to listen. You have to be quiet. You got to be quiet. And that's so making that switch was huge for me. And then getting hurt at Baylor was an awesome thing for me too, because it allowed me to go at him even more. Whenever something, I mean, I'm always in God, but whenever something bad happens, I'm really in God. Like I'm all the way tied in.
You're clinging.
Yes,
That's your hope.
Yes, and he does it on purpose, right?
Yeah.
God,
Yeah. And people are like, well, how could God do that on purpose? Well, because then you turn back to him.
Yes.
And he blesses those who listen to him. And it's not a gospel, it's not a prosperity blessing. It's a light. It's not prosperity blessing, but you're still blessed.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's just, I think it's like an overcoming. And every time you're put through something hard and vigorous in life that's going to challenge you, it makes you stronger.
Yes.
So that's why, man, my life is full of obstacles, but I'm such a stronger person. Like my knee injury, this is the best thing that had ever happened to me. The best.
Isn't that crazy? Most people wouldn't say that.
I know, it's wild. But just the clarity of mind I have now of why it happened, and it's for a bigger purpose. I get to touch so many more kids with training, and I get to be at home with my kids, and I get to go to church with them and just give my life to God, literally. Like that's all I do now is train and pray and just try to give it all to the kids, like I try to.
So when you were in sports, let's say it doesn't matter, high school, college, even professional, were people aware of your Christian walk? Were
Yes.
they, and it was evident and they knew it?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I know in some sports, in some places, or some people, they avoid the athletes that are Christians, don't want anything to do with them, or make fun of them, or there's all sorts of things. and you still got to continue your walk. Did you face any of that?
In the pros, like I said, they don't want to hear you talk about God, so I always talk about God. So they don't want to, like, so I had a good game, they'd come over there, but I'm like, first I just want to thank God. They'd be like, oh, like, you know what I'm saying? They'd be like, I don't want to hear this. You know what I'm saying? I always give it.
Yeah, we just saw it on TV with the Houston player not too long ago. Yeah. Same thing.
But the thing is, it's like all this is fake, right? So I'm doing it for something that's real. And when I truly know who God is inside of me, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. That's right. It doesn't.
You're staying true, and I think that's a good testimony, because people say it doesn't matter what happened. His faith is not wavered. Not that you haven't had moments of doubt. We all do, but you still stayed on that road, and that's huge.
There's something to say about it.
And maybe did it ever, that you know of, affect somebody in a positive way, like inspire them, water seeds, plant seeds, harvest?
So
God's harvest.
I get to talk to a lot of people, but I feel like when people hear me talk, they might paint a picture before they meet me, right? But when you sit down and talk to me, I'm going to talk about God somewhere.
Yeah, it's going to come up.
It always does. I don't care where I meet you on an airplane. And it's crazy. I have a lot of cool conversations on airplanes with people about God.
I have too.
That happens to me every time I sit on an airplane. The person next to me will talk about God, and we have a great conversation. But God talks through people, and He uses people to get to you. So
He does, and allows you to get to other people. And maybe you plant a seed or water a seed, and
that's what I'm learning too. Is like, that's why my job is to be a disciple.
Yes.
Right? So the more I can bring people to God, and the more I can talk about God, maybe there's a kid that's going to watch this that don't have no faith, and after this, he might go read the Bible. He might start his journey through this. But I've talked to several kids, and I'll talk about faith, and they'll see how serious I am.
I was going to ask you about the youth that you interact with, especially because I see a lot of the youth in the community that you interact with. And as we start talking about this, I asked one youth a couple of weeks ago. I know that he's new to Christ, probably maybe during the summer or at some point. And I finally asked him, so your walk with Christ is relatively new. And I've had the unique experience of being down on the sidelines and in the tunnel, not like in the middle, but so, I get to hear what goes on, and I'm sure parents know what goes on, but they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm just like, whoa, wow. Yeah. And my son does some videography, so I got to hear some other stuff, and I'm like,
for sure.
They said what?
Yeah, for sure. So
I asked this young man about this. I said, how have you noticed this since you became a Christian, the on the field stuff? And he used the word bipolar. And I think, I was like, that is it. It's bipolar. And I told him the other day, just Sunday, I'm like, I have not been able to get that word out of my head. He goes, it is what it is, man.
And I will say this too, is you're not perfect.
No,
nobody's perfect. So
and he's going to do better.
I want to clear that too. Like, don't think I ain't never done anything in my life, or my road ain't been bumpy, or I didn't teeter-totter, been lukewarm here and there. But the older I got, God, like the stuff that He didn't want me to do, His voice got louder.
And he makes it easier to remove.
Yes, and then you keep going and you keep getting deeper into your faith. One day you'll wake up and the things that it'll be stripped off of you. Like, that's why it says you have to be made new.
Yeah.
And literally, I've been made new. Like, I have a new train of thought. I have a new spirit. I have a new mind, and that's what it takes. But
that bipolar just got me. And I thought, within the person, like I understood he meant, within the person, like for him, because he's new to faith, and told me when he goes off to college, he's going to try to be better. And then as a teen, you see it because you got aspects of being on the football field and how things can get on the football field.
Yeah.
But then you're still trying to be in this Christian realm.
Yeah.
And that in itself is like football, being a Christian in football and athletics in general can be bipolar. And I just was wondering if that really resonated with you.
I feel like for me, like I feel like I'm a real person. So whenever you see something real, like I don't fake. So whenever you see me, you understand who I am. You're my friend. You're going to understand who I am and like what side I'm on. And I'm not scared to call nobody out either.
No, right? And I think that's good. Authentic's a good word to put to but who you see is what you're getting. Yeah. I've walked into business meetings at church and like, I need y'all to pray for me right now. I just and it's not that it's a compliment, but people, appreciate the fact that you're authentic with them. And I think students, it's even more important because youth, I used to be a teacher as well, and they can tell, they know.
And another thing is like, I don't try to force it on people either.
No, you can't do that.
You can't do that. Cause my thing is like, everybody's, when it's time, it's time. And I'm not going to change you. You have to change yourself. But whenever it's time, and you keep going back to God, and you don't know what day it's gonna be, what time.
Yeah.
When that Holy Spirit touch you,
you'll know.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's one of the things too. You have to learn. It's not you they're rejecting. Is they're being angry or disgruntled with you? It's God they're rejecting. It's Jesus they're rejecting, not you. And they just don't want to hear you talk about or me use a general term, but. But yeah, you have this influence. So the kids that you work with, you take it to them on the field. Do you use it to help them gain insight to what's going on when they're on the field and it's not going their way, or maybe when it is, they don't see it when it's going their way as much as when it's not going their way?
Yeah, I try to give them just insight of how to strengthen their mind in general. Just strong minds. That's what it's about. We can have all the muscles in the world, but if your mind's weak, then you're gonna be a weak person. But if your mind's strong, so I'm always tell them, I always start off, get you like a notebook, right? Write down your goals, aspirations, and write down what you want in life, and have a clear vision of it. Because when you have a clear vision of stuff, it just makes it all clear for you. But if you don't know what you want to do, then how do you do it? Right, so I
starting point.
Yeah, just a starting point. But going back to the field, like mentally, I'm like, just go out there and play hard. Always play hard, and don't look at bad things as bad things. Look at bad things to get better from. And if you mess up, and if you mess up doing something one way one time, don't make that same mistake. So that's my biggest thing. Is like, you can mess up in life. All right, but learn from it. Learn from your mistakes, and that's something I think I've done very well. Is I might get burned one time, pop, I ain't doing that again, and I really don't do it again. So
and you can bring that, you can instill that in the kids that you are coming into contact with, and hopefully they say, okay, well, what Meech said, okay, I screwed up, don't do it again, and they'll move the other direction from it,
and just having just grace for yourself too.
Yeah.
Grace for yourself. And like I said, when you play for God, like that's the most simple thing I can say is like, don't play for yourself, play for God. When you play for God, like, you know how hard you gotta play, right? You know how hard you gotta play, and it's all in God's hands. So just always remember that too. So a bad game, it's a bad game. It's done with. Don't sit there and dwell on it, right? So I just try to lift them up as much as possible, but also teach them how to work hard. A lot of kids don't know what hard work is. They think they're working hard, but I'm like, listen, you're not working hard.
These kids today do not know hard work at any level, whether it's sports or life sometimes.
And they soft too.
Let's hope we don't go to war.
They soft, man.
But so many of them have good hearts, and they want to please. And I think the opportunity for so many of them to have somebody like you who can walk their faith, whether they're in the sport, training the sport with their family, or just out in the community and randomly running into somebody. that faith is there
Just
on display, no matter what.
And just I tell them not to be shy about it. Don't be, like for me, if somebody says, "Do you believe in God?" I'm like, yeah, like be loud and proud with it, because God's proud of you.
Yeah, and he will deny those who deny him.
100%.
And that whoa.
100%.
I mean that's biblical. That ain't me just making that. That's biblical. Yep. And yeah, he doesn't want that for us, and he wants us to acknowledge him and be proud of who he is. And I am so blessed to be a child of God.
Yes.
I have gained so much from it, more than I've lost.
Yes.
There's things that are out of my life, and I don't consider it a loss. I can consider gain. I mean, I missed a race last in 2022, and don't know why. It's not that I didn't show up. I physically couldn't, and God had a plan. Had a plan. So
God's plan is the best plan. It's always perfect time.
It is. And I just see it everywhere in my life, and I'm happy to share it with anybody who asks. Very few people ask, which is fine.
Yeah.
God will put who I'm supposed to influence.
Yes.
And the great thing is, God's put so many people in your life. Like most of the people I hang out with are people from my church, so I have a very small life sphere.
That's awesome.
But you hang out with so many people because of the job you do, and all the jobs you've done. That even people on, like, even in professional football, someday will be, I remember that. And that might be a seed that was planted you never even knew.
Very true.
And now you're planting bunches of seeds or watering bunches of seeds. And that is, it just will bring glory to God as these kids move forward. Because someday their life is going to change. And they're not going to they're not going to play football anymore.
And I will say this, good things are going to happen, bad things are going to happen. But when you have a foundation of God, you have something that's solid, right? To always go back to. Because life's tough, man. You're gonna have your bumps and bruises, but in the midst of all that chaos, when you hone in and you go back to God, that foundation is always there. So when you have that, you have it to go back to. If you don't have a foundation, imagine just not having God and out here just having to deal with a whole bunch of stuff.
I can't. Right? I don't know how I did it without God. I know what I was doing, like sports-wise. One day he got a hold of me and he was like, come here. Come here. And so, but that foundation, when something happens, that foundation is so important to know that it taught me that I am not a moto mom. I am not a triathlete. I'm a child of God. And God has allowed me these things in my life. And those are blessings. They're not who I am. They're what I get to do.
Yes.
And that was a weird lesson when it finally clicked. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Like I was growing up, I just realized that, like, I'm a tool. Like, I'm God's tool to be used, and my platform and my gifts are allowing other people to see who got me there. So it's talking about God the whole time. So understanding that, and literally understanding that your life is not your life. This is all a plan. This is all God's plan to bring people to Him. And when you truly understand that, it's so much less pressure on you. Yeah.
Because you're the tool to do it. You're not the responsible party for them saying yes.
Yes.
But and what's so great, this whole thing of doing a podcast with Christian athletes has been on my mind for a long time. And I finally felt that was the tool he was trying to give me, because when you're swimming, you're not going to be able to talk to people. But you've got this platform where you're interacting with teammates. Now you've got a platform where you're interacting with student athletes. And what a platform he's given you, where you've got so many people that can witness your walk and witness or ask you about it, or maybe be disparaging towards it, but the way you respond will somehow plant that just that one seed,
one little seed,
that one little mustard seed that they need.
Yes.
So
it's But you see Brock Purdy, you see CJ Stroud, right?
Yeah.
I love when they talk about God, but you see they're so faithful. Like Brock Purdy, he's one of the most faithful ones too. Because I scouted him when he
Oh,
was
did
at
you?
Iowa State.
Mr. Irrelevant?
Mr. Irrelevant.
Who is now...
And I think I had him in like the 7th round. He was good in college, but he would always just have a couple bad throws. And but I would have never thought he would be as good as he is now. And that's awesome because it ties back into it doesn't matter what people think about you.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't matter. Whatever God got for you, he will take people out of the way to give it to you. And that's what he's doing with Brock Purdy right now. And that's what I love so much. And Brock is he's so humble and such a good person that the media doesn't know what to do with him because he just gives it all to God. Like he doesn't even want to talk to
See,
the
I
media.
like that because I've been a San Francisco fan for a couple decades, even in the bad times.
Yeah.
I know, we're in Texas.
Yeah.
But, not just that, but Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
Think back to his career, and he took so much flack.
So much good.
From the public, from the players, from the media.
Yeah. So true.
And he stuck to it. I mean, he never... Yeah. I mean, I'm sure personally behind closed doors, he might have been like, God, I'm having doubts here, but I can't speak to that for him.
Yeah.
But in public, he was very, like, I'm firm. And even now, he's still doing God's work. And I think what he's doing thing for trafficked kids now or something. So, I mean, he's just saying so true to his faith.
He really is. Tebow's awesome.
So, I mean, awesome. I wish people would take notice of people like, I mean, he's a good player too, just like Brock Purdy's a good player. So, I mean, there's God, God first and that second. Tim Tebow just basically left football. I mean, there's a lot of other factors, but he's like, you know what? God first.
Yeah.
And stuck with it. Yeah. And God led you to leave.
Yes.
But still provided for you.
Always.
So that, I mean.
Always. So, yeah.
The amazing things.
It's awesome. Everybody has a story. Everybody got a journey.
Yes.
It's fun though. It's awesome.
I am so glad that you came into the studio and took this time to tell us about your journey in life and how faith played roles in each step of the way. That is so amazing. And I just hope people can take hope and inspiration from this and seek that.
Yes, ma'am. This is awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. As we sit here and look at these stats, I'm just grateful I had this opportunity to interview Meech Goodson. What an amazing testimony. He trusted God and sought God in all the decisions he had to make and everything he went through, from transitioning to different sports to dealing with his injuries and every step that he was supposed to take next. It's just a good reminder to us that God is in control and has a plan and a purpose for our life. We are not our sport. We are able to do the sport through God's gift and grace, and we are so much more than the athletics we participate in. I am so thankful for this opportunity to not only be reminded of this, but to share this with you. And I hope that it has an impact on your life and your view of the sports you participate in. We'll see you next time on the next episode of Beyond the Sport.